You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Bullseye. What a great Tuesday night it is. I'm so happy to be with you today. We got lots and lots of people watching tonight, and we got lots and lots to go over. I am on a new platform. For those of you that have not realized, I am on a new platform called StreamYard, so we will get to as many comments. We want you to interact. We want you to get involved. And boy, do we have USF news to talk about. But before we do that, as always, I want to bring in my great co-host. Let's welcome in Bradley Lewis Walker. Bradley, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing good. Love the new screen you got back there, buddy. Looks awesome, man. Love seeing that big U for USF up there looking really, really good. And once again, we want to welcome people from Northeast Streaming Sports, also from our Bullseye platform, and also Frankly Speaking Sports live on YouTube. We're coming to you on many different platforms. And Bradley, I think the next thing I'm going to get made up, I'll have it up by next week, is that intro, instead of saying Frankly Speaking Sports, one for Bullseye, where we got both our names on now that we know we're going to be on Northeast Streaming Sports, even Bullseye. So we'll get that. I'm sure our Mac won't have a problem making that up for us. Well, welcome to another Tuesday. We took off a little bit. And, as always, it's been an exciting week, but unfortunately, all good things, they say, my friend, must come to an end. And that was no different than our USF women's basketball team, who finished their season 19-4 and lost today in the second round of the NCAA Tournament versus a very, very good NC State team, I must say.
Yeah, Larry, I got a chance to listen to the game on iHeartRadio on Bulls Unlimited with the great Derek Sharp. I know he's a fan of the show. They had a good first half. I mean, they went into the half leading. They just didn't shoot very well in the second half, and it caught up to them, and the Wolfpack were able to take advantage, and they got into some foul trouble early on too as well. So I mean, the Wolfpack took advantage of that in the second half.
Yeah, and I talked about this game. You and I weren't on that was because of me on this past Tuesday. But yesterday on my show, I previewed a little bit, not much, but just enough for people to know what to expect in this game. And I made this comment last night. a similar comment to you and I made before the Washington State game. I said, this is different. The teams you're playing now are a lot better, and that's no discredit towards the AAC, but these teams are a lot better, a lot more competitive, a lot more accurate, a lot more precise when it comes to playing the game of basketball. And they ran into a team like that, but I said yesterday, in order for this team to win, they need to do three things. A, they need to be more consistent with their shooting. I used a number right around 45% field goals. I said they have to be 80% in free throws, and I said from three-pointers right about 40%, and keep turnovers to a minimum 10 or under. Well, the first quarter, they didn't play well, but they were only down by one. But in that second quarter, Bradley, in the first quarter, they shot 19%. Second quarter, they came in and they shot, listen to this, 69% from the field. I think they made 5 or 6 three-pointers. They were playing tough, and they were actually leading 36-35. Just like my point I made, if you're hitting those numbers, and they were hitting 46% at half, it was 80% free throws, and oh, by the way, just a couple of turnovers. Then came the dreaded third quarter where the bottom fell out. They couldn't hit anything. They couldn't have hit me if I was standing right next to them. Just one of those cold streaks when, and we talked about this, you can't have that cold shooting streak when you're playing great caliber teams like NC State. And unfortunately, you know, they played hard, deserve a lot of credit, but, you know, this is a young team and a team that all of USF should be proud of, because when you look at this team, Bradley, it's not going to be much different next year.
No, Larry, I think they have a lot of the team back. I remember listening. I think Shayna Leverett, I think this was her last game. I think she's a senior. She is going to be not here next season, but I think a majority of the team is coming back next year, which is a good thing. I think isn't Bethany Manunga, isn't she also a senior? I think this was her last game as well.
No, she's a redshirt junior. So I believe it was Sydney Harvey. There is somebody else. Shay Leverett was one of them, but I know Shay is definitely one of them. But going back to our point, Bradley, when we were talking about where the numbers could be, if you look at this game by quarters, in the first quarter it was 19-18 USF losing. Okay? Then it was 36-35 at halftime. They were winning. The only quarter they got beat, buddy, 24-11. Now, for the game, I told you those magic numbers. USF only shot 35.9% from the field, 32% three-pointers, and a not-so-customary 66.7% from the free throw line, which they've been doing a lot better than that lately. But you talk about those magic numbers and look at NC State, 47.2 from the field, 42.9 from three-pointers, and just under 80%. A formula that wins, and they had 9 turnovers. So, you know, when you look at this game and I break this game down, you know, this was a game where 2 things were going to happen. NC State was going to try to score inside and create fouls on Bethany Manunga, which they did very, very well. Manunga fouled out early in the third quarter, and they were going to, NC State, let USF shoot as much as they want to see how streaky and how hot they were staying. It worked for a while for USF, but look at this. 29 times NC State went to the free throw line and made 23. The game was won inside, you know, and Manunga, who wasn't doing anything with points, he still had 9 rebounds and a half. And just the rebounding side, you know, when you don't have, you know, the beast in there, Bethany Manunga, it's going to be hard. I mean, everybody tried to chip in, but you didn't have your number one rebounder. And then the game, you know, a couple questionable calls, but, you know, who doesn't have this? But at the end of the day, you have to say, and I know I said it earlier, that They were outmatched in this game. You live and die by the three-pointers. And, when you live and die by a three-point shot, the chance of you staying hot outside the perimeter is very difficult. And, next year when this team comes back, yes, they're going to be better, but you can't expect the team – I don't think you can expect the team to consistently shoot 45% from three-point rate throughout the year. There has to be some other shots and working it inside and creating fouls and getting to the free throw line and making those free throws.
Yeah, I mean, Larry, I listened to mostly the first half. When I got off work at 4:30 this afternoon, they were already into almost the third quarter was almost over. But they shot pretty well from the three-point line in the first half. I mean, Derek Sharp was going nuts. Every time they touched the ball, they were getting a three-point shot. But in the second half, the third quarter is what killed them, guys. I mean, you can go back and watch the game. They had a terrible third quarter. That's what cost them the ball game. Plain and simple. And you know what? Larry's exactly right. I've been listening to the game. NC State's coach, what he thought he wanted to do? Get the ball inside, get the fouls, and that's exactly what the Wolfpack did. In the second half, when you have a lot of fouls, I think they had both starting centers were at 3 fouls in the first half. Well, you can't go. You only get 5, so you got to be careful now in the second half. And they said that Coach Randers does not foul with 2 minutes left. They had a chance. They got really close. I think they were down 6 or 8 with like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But he doesn't foul. That's not the way that Coach Randers does it. So yeah, they lost in the third quarter. And that's right. They're going to have to be better next year. They're going to have to get some better three-point shooters or get better as a team consistently from the three-point line if that's where they're going to live and die next season.
And this is no surprise. We knew this was going to happen sooner or later. You and I have talked about this week after week. Give the team credit. They've done a great job. But the one thing that has killed this team since they came back from the pandemic after the 30-day layoff has been consistency with the ball in the entire game. I mean, they played a great defense, I thought, overall this game. I mean, they scored more points than they usually score. But once again, it came down to which team was the most consistent, and there was no doubt at the end of the game, like you said, the third quarter. But that's why a game is 4 quarters, You have 4 quarters in the basketball game, and they held their own very well, except for 1 quarter, and they lost by the amount of that quarter they lost. So, I don't want to take away. Alina Sinicki was just unbelievable, lights out in this game. You were talking about hitting three-pointers. She was a three-point machine. Elisa Pinzon, what can you say about her? 18 points. What a team player. This is a good ball club. But like Bradley said, if this team is going to do something next year, they have to have a more consistent offense. And the one thing that I noticed a lot, especially the last 6-7 games of the season, is when they're in transition and they come down, there are times instead of slowing it down and getting a good shot, they will take what I call an uncontrolled good shot. What that means is the shot is open, but you're not controlled enough in the position you're in to shoot the ball yet. And maybe sometimes an extra pass here or there, and they dish it back to you, and then you shoot it, is better than being out of control and shooting it just because you're open. And that comes with time. That comes with practice. That comes with consistency. And, when you look at this year and all the adversity this team has been through with, just like every other team with this, illness and COVID and being out, you got to give them credit. We didn't win, okay? We did not win. But we listened to the games. We lost to Baylor, okay, the number 4 team, and took them to the brink. We played 3 quarters against the number 1 seed, NC State, and scared the you-know-what out of them, except for that 1 quarter, okay? This ball club is good. Don't think this is a one and done with this team. Like I said, and like Bradley said, they're only losing 2 players, which you don't like to lose anyone, but I'm sorry, you can only play so many years in the NCAA, and the one thing I would look for, Alvarez, as long as nobody enters the borderline thing, you got Alvarez, Pinzan, Manunga, Saniki, all back next year. This is a team that, they're going to be predicted high. Don't be surprised next year when the season starts if this team is in the top 25 in the preseason polls, because they're going to be that good. But the one thing they have to overcome is they're a one-dimensional team. Hit the threes or you lose. And they got to be able to change it up so when those teams are not as hot as they are in a particular game, they can go inside to Manunga, get her fouled, and have her go to the free throw line like NC State did today and make 80%, because Manunga, was an 80% free throw shooter. A lot of people don't realize that this year. So if you give her the ball a little bit more, maybe she can score a couple more points. And, instead of her being the one collecting the fouls, maybe she's the one getting fouled next year. And, I love to see them use, that's the one part of the game in the college basketball that has seemed to go away in both men's and women is it's shoot it, live and die by the shot. The inside game has been gone, and we need to bring that inside game, at least a dimension of it, back into the game so it can become more two-dimensional than a one-dimensional game.
No, I agree, Larry, and I also agree with you too. You said that the last 5 or 6 games of the season, it seemed like they were taking more of the hurried shot. I saw a little bit of video today on ESPN that they came down the court, and instead of setting up and getting a good shot, they'd hurry a shot, and you're thinking that's got to drive Coach Randis nuts. As a coach, that's got to drive you crazy, especially when you're losing. Now, when you're winning, it's a different story, but when you're losing and you got to get those points, you got to get those threes or twos for that matter, and you're not getting them. Yeah, that would drive me nuts as a head coach.
And there's a time when the transition game needs to be run and gun. But you have to know when to do it, and it's not every time. You run and gun, because running and gunning can change the momentum of a game very quickly if you're successful. Very, very quickly you can gain points. But in order to do that, you gotta be hot, you gotta be ready for that. And it's not done all the time, because just as quickly as it can bring you back in the game, it can demoralize you mentally when you think now you're missing shots. And, I don't care what anyone says, but there's a very big portion of all athletics, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, hockey, there's a big percentage of it that is mental. And if you start missing shots because you're in transition and you're running and gunning, it's going to hit you mentally, so that now when you're open, guess what's happening? You're missing as well. And people need to realize that this game of basketball is a lot more than just putting the ball up. Remember, the ball has to go in the net. It's not who has the most shots, it's who makes the most shots. And that's what you got to remember. The team with the most points at the end wins. And like I said, there's a lot of talent on this team. I'm just amazed at some of these young ones that are going to be back that haven't even played a lot, that got to play today. Boston Kova, Jordo. We're going to be a good team. And, that's the only thing I would like to see. I thought Coach Hernandez did a terrific job overall. You got to remember, he doesn't shoot the ball. Okay, the team shoots the ball. He can set up the play. If they're open, he expects those shots to be made. And that's what a coach is supposed to do. But at the end of the day, he can't be out there shooting for these ladies. They're the ones that shoot it. And, it's not as easy as it looks to hit 6, 7, 8 3-pointers in a row, unless you're Maria Alvarez. You like to make it look easy sometimes. But, and she, after that first half, you didn't hear much about Maria in the second half at all, and that's usually the spark plug that lifts the USF Bulls, and that didn't happen today. But I don't want us to go without recognizing that this team was 19-4 this year. This team did win an AAC title and an AAC championship. This team did get to the second round of the NCAA tournament. There was so much good this happened. But for those of you fans, and I know it'll start, and I know we're going to hear it, I haven't seen a comment yet. This is not the fault of the NCAA committee and the seed that we ended up being. Eventually, you have to play good teams. Yes, we probably wouldn't have played a number one seed if we were seeded higher. There's no doubt about that. But in order to get to the championship and your goal is to win the tournament, you're going to have to beat everybody you play. There's something, if you didn't realize it, you realized it today. There are still teams better than you out there. There are still teams more physical than you out there. You take this stuff, which I know Coach Fernandez will do, and this team is going to be better because of the experience they gained in all those different facets this year. I mean, how talk about it, Bradley. The experience they gained going to these tournaments and winning, and then going to the NCAA is something. Since the whole team's going to be back next year, you know they're going to be hungry and thirsty to get back there and prove themselves even a little bit more.
Well, let's use this as an example, Larry. Let's look at the professional football team that plays in Tampa. Tom Brady comes here, brings that chemistry that he brought in New England. Ladies and gentlemen, look what happened. The team didn't lose a game after their bye week. This is exactly what this is a great experience for. And sometimes, guys, when you lose, it's better than winning in a way because you learn from what you need to get better at. This team will get better next year. They'll be right back here. We'll be talking about this next year, too. I have no doubt this team will be back in the thick of it next year. You know what? Maybe we'll be talking the Final Four or national championship next season because they're that damn good. They were damn good this year. So be proud of them, guys, just because they lost today. Still be proud of them. They did a hell of a job this season, and they deserve all the credit that they're getting.
Yeah, and like I said before we get off the note of the USF women's basketball team, it was a good year. And I know I'm saying that over and over again, and I'm usually the type of guy that says, I'm a Derek Jeter type mentality where number two is still losing. There's only one winner, and you win or you don't win. But at the end of the day, guys, I mean, you're talking about an unbelievable year, like I said, with all these things transpiring. Kudos off to USF. I mean, they represented the college. I could not think of a better group of coaches, basketball players, and staff that had represented this school any better than anybody else could have done this year. So, if you see these players on campus, and congratulate them on a great year, because I tell you what, we got something very special brewing here with this women's team. Don't be surprised, and I don't want to jump the gun. I know we're still another year away from starting back up, but this is a team that is going to be there again next year. I would be very, very surprised if you do not see this team. And they're going to learn. They're going to learn from a couple of those losses at the end of the season. And I'm not just talking about the tournament games, Bradley, but the Houston and the UCF games are games they probably never should have lost. And it doesn't help you going into the tournament. But when it counted the most, they won out. They won in the tournament. And like I said, congratulations, Coach Fernandez and the entire – and I'll tell you what, I'm like you. I love listening to Derek Sharp on Bulls Unlimited. For those of you folks that don't get a chance to listen, that's where you listen to all the different coverages of the women's and men's basketball. Derek is great. The only thing that scares me about Derek sometimes is whether he's going to last the whole game, because he gets so animated, so fired up. Like today, I thought he was telling me he got the technical foul for yelling at the coach. The refs for making bad calls. He was so fired up, and I love him. I love him so much. I mean, but he does such a terrific job covering the game and covering the team. I mean, if there's nobody better in college basketball to listen to than our very own Derek Sharp here on Bulls Unlimited.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm not trying to compare him to Dave Michigan, but I don't know how those two both get through a game, how jacked up they both get when you're listening to a Lightning game or when you listen. Because, guys, if you don't know, Derek Sharp also does soccer. He gets guys, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I will listen to college soccer because he makes it exciting to listen to when he's doing the play-by-play when the Bulls are playing. So, I don't know how he gets through a game.
And we wonder why Harry Carey drank all those beers in the room.
There you go.
Oh,
correct.
now we know why.
That's a good one there, Larry. Good one there.
But before we get in, we're going to be talking a little bit about football, Bradley, and I in a little bit. But before we get into that, some disturbing news out of USF. If you haven't heard this week that USF men's basketball now has allegations or accusations against assistant coach Tom Harrion for making, I believe, racial remarks towards players on the men's basketball team. They are currently doing an investigation into that. Obviously, we don't have all the facts right now. We can only tell you what we do know. We do know, as far as the investigation for Coach Brian Gregory, the men's head basketball coach, he is not implemented in making the comments. The part where it gets iffy with Coach Gregory is if this was brought to his attention, which I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't or not, but when you have that many people involved, it's hard for me to believe that nobody said anything about it. But the big thing they're going to look at with Coach Gregory is if you did know about it, what did you or why didn't you do anything and report it to us, which is very important. And nowadays in athletic departments is the reporting of it and letting the athletic director or the people in those positions know about it. And, Bradley, you and I, unfortunately on our shows, we have several discussions, unfortunate discussions, because as many people will say, there are discussions that are necessary. There are discussions that we shouldn't have to be talking about. We should know better. Okay, for any youngster, and let me recap this for you a little bit, folks. And Bradley, interject if I missed something. But this started about a week ago when players started entering the transfer portal. And I'm not a big fan of the transfer portal, but I understand this reason. Okay, nobody should have to play under any circumstances like this if they are being racially, comments are being made towards them. But we started wondering what's going on. It's 2 players, and then 3 players, then 6 players, and now we got the 7th player with Alexis Zietner now entering the transfer portal. I knew something wasn't right. I never dreamed that it was something like this with racial remarks, but I knew something, and it kind of baffles me, Bradley, that as people started entering the portal, wouldn't you have thought someone, whether it was Mike Kelly, Jim Lauk, whoever's in charge in this athletic department, Coach Gregory, if he was unaware, I mean, wouldn't you think the eyebrows should have been raised that something is not right here when you have that many people going into the transfer portal?
Yeah, Larry, absolutely. And I want to, again, I agree with you. I don't get political guys on either one of my shows. I don't bring politics into sports. I don't think that's like, oil and water. They don't mix with each other. But like Larry said, unfortunately, we have to talk about stuff like this. To be honest with you guys, I think it makes me sick that we're still worrying about racial and sexual remarks in society, let alone in sports, but just in society itself. And it's absolutely, if Coach Gregory knew about this, now you have 6 players who have all transferred. Or, I mean, again, can they come back? Of course they can. Will they come back if maybe they get rid of Coach Harrion? I don't know. I don't know what the young men went through or what they were called. But it is kind of, like you said, it's interesting to know that if this was going on, why didn't anyone say anything? Michael Kelly was on this show a few weeks ago, and I was sure hell happy to find out that they got the money for the new practice facility. We talked about that. But if he knew that something like this was going on, you don't want to have your university drugged like this because, again, this could be not only damaging to basketball, but it could be damaging to all of your sports.
Yes.
So, you don't want that. We're trying to grow USF, not destroy it. And this is something that can, destroy a organization or, a school within. So they got to get whatever happened. They've got to get rid of him, or they've got to do something, or the investigation obviously will tell us more coming out. But to have 6 players transfer, yeah, I saw that the other day, Larry, and then I saw this pop up on Friday last week or Saturday of last week, and I'm going, holy cow, wow. I mean, okay, I didn't expect to hear anything like this coming out, but again, unfortunately, there are people in society like this, and we unfortunately
yeah. And you like to think that whether you're an athletic director or coach that you're picking the right human being, but there are times when we don't know everything, and I'm not justifying anything. There is no place, no if, and, or buts. There is not a place in society for racial discrimination. No way, shape, or form. And I don't talk politics either on my show. But like Bradley said, this is a topic, and we're going to address it. Now, on the same note, we're not sitting here saying that Tom is right or Tom is wrong because we don't have the facts. And people go, well, what do you mean you don't have the facts? Well, we don't know what happened. But I will tell you right now, it's very similar to the Deshaun Watson situation on a different spectrum. One is sexual assault, but the other is discrimination. But when you get this many people coming out and saying something is wrong, there is a problem. And my problem is, how the hell can you coach a team and not know about this? If you really didn't know about it, then you are amazing, Coach Gregory. But for him to know about it, and if he did dig it under the ground and kept it quiet, shame on him. Shame on him, and he should get, consequences should be there for him as well. I just cannot believe that 7 young men on a team are feeling uncomfortable because of racial remarks made by one of his assistants. And you're telling me not one of the 7 people have come out and told Coach Gregory about this? I'm not there. I don't have the facts, but I just find it hard to believe that nobody would come out and say that. And like you said, Bradley, you hit it right on the nail. This is bigger than basketball. First of all, you're talking about people before you even get into what it does for the institution, University of South Florida. But these are young men that will never have another good word to say about USF if this isn't, handled correctly. This is about other people never wanting to come to USF because of what happened on a basketball team. It doesn't matter if you play football or baseball or softball or women's basketball. At the end of the day, it's all USF. The brand is USF, and you represent USF. And for, like I said, we're going to find out more, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm USF, I act on this quickly, find out the facts, conclude the investigation, and take the necessary steps to make sure this never, ever happens again. And I would include those 7 players, which I'm sure they're going to do. And, it's, more importantly than keeping them at USF is to make sure they fixed the wrong that has been done. This isn't about keeping them at USF. It's about fixing a problem, because if that problem is going on the men's basketball coach, in the men's basketball facilities, I guarantee you there was a lot more people that knew about it before the media got a hold of it. And, and Bradley, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I'm just disturbed, nauseated, and just bothered by how a school so close to us could have, and once again, we don't know everyone, so let's be fair about this. Coach Gregory is maybe responsible for his coaches if it was brought to him, but he can't be around to listen to every single thing the guy says. Things have to be brought to his attention. But on the other side of things, there is no place for that. It makes me sick as heck to even think that one of our own school, a school we love so much, a school that we try to do so much for, would have somebody who is a part of it that is just completely ignorant and, I'm sorry, stupid and whatever other word you want to use when it comes to this situation. But as Bradley and I find out more, of course, we'll give you more. We don't know what the comments were. I don't at least know what the comments was. So as we find out more, we will let you know. But I'm sorry. It's sickening, Bradley, to me, and disturbing to me that we have to still in the year 2021 explain to people that there is no difference between a white man and a black man, or an Asian man and a white man, or whatever, a female, you guys know my point. For us, we are all the same. We're human beings. We all have heartbeats. This is stupid already. Why can't we just move on? And obviously, it's not as simple as I'm making it sound, because if it was, it would have been taken care of already.
Yeah, Larry, this actually, you bring up a good point. It reminds me a lot. You guys, and I'm sure you guys have heard about it. Look happened to Joe Paterno at Penn State. Jerry Sandusky was raping young men, and he didn't know about it. He cost him his job and his reputation at Penn State. Now, again, I'm not comparing Penn State to USF, because Penn State's been a lot, they've been a university longer than USF. But what I'm saying, guys, is this is the kind of stuff that can ruin a program to its core if it's not taken care of. And I agree, Larry. It makes me sick that, again, being a writer, I actually wrote the other day, nothing to do with USF. But how about Ohio State? That kid, 19 years old, he gets death threats. Guys, you are cowards, keyboard cowards. You do not send a death threat to a 19-year-old kid. At any age, you get a death threat. But first of all, don't send it to a college kid. Come on, man. You guys are sick. People out there are sick, man. But that's what it is, man. Unfortunately, like Larry said, we're all humans. I don't care what color you are, red, white, yellow, if you're bi, trans, whatever. As long as you're happy and you're doing your thing, I'm happy with that. Nothing affects me. So at the end of the day, it's sickening that there are people out there that are like this. And unfortunately, we can't get rid of them, because they're going to always be there, and that's going to be the thing we're going to have to deal with in the future, unfortunately. Hopefully, someday down the road, we won't have to talk about, racial stuff and sexual stuff, but, maybe someday.
And, you're right. We may not be able to get rid of it forever, Bradley, but I'll tell you what, USF can sure make a stand that there's going to be consequences if it ever happens again, by showing them by example what they're going to do in this circumstance.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Give me 1 second here while I'm still figuring out the new computer here. Let me go ahead and get this up here. All right. So yeah, I'm learning, Bradley. All right. We'll get this. We're going to go ahead and play a message from Coach Jeff Scott. All right. I always like that.
Hello, Bulls Nation. This is your head football coach, Jeff Scott. I wanted to take a minute and give you an update on our spring practices. I've been very pleased with the work that our young men have put in this spring. The attitude, mindset, and competitiveness that I've seen on the practice field is no doubt laying the foundation for a very successful future for our program. I'm also really encouraged about the young talent that we've had added to our roster this year. I want to encourage each of you to come to our spring game on Saturday, March 27th at 12 noon at Ray J to be able to see our Bulls compete. The green versus the white. We've also split up our coaching staffs. We're going to have a very competitive game, and I cannot wait to watch our guys compete in Ray J during the spring game. I really hope that you'll click on the link below and reserve your seats for this spring game. Due to COVID procedures and protocols, there are no walk-ups allowed, and you must register for your tickets before the event. I cannot wait to see each of you there on Saturday, March 27th. It's going to be a great afternoon for football. Go Bulls.
And that was Coach Jeff Scott. And we're going to start talking a little bit about USF's, at least spring football. And I'll tell you what, Bradley, it seemed like it just ended. And here we are again with football season. And I'll tell you what, I'm reading a bunch of articles, no matter who they come from, of course, when it comes to USF and spring football. And, you know, I read about the offense, I read about the defense, I read about some of the new coaches. But I'll tell you what, we got quite a few transfers on the defensive side of the ball that this team is really looking up. I've been listening to Coach Forrest and Coach Forrest, I'll be okay. Coach Scott, and he seems very excited about this team in the scrimmages, and it seems like just the feeling around USF completely different than it was last year at this time.
Well, yeah, I mean, think back, guys. Last year, there was no spring football. Obviously, COVID had an issue with that. This year, he's going to have an opportunity to see what he has. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of transfers because kids are going to, say you got a new head coach, they don't get along with the coach or they don't fit the mold or whatever that coach is running, and they can come down here where they fit more comfortably. And that's great. I mean, I was reading articles that they've been showing intensity. I wrote an article, guys, that as of right now, Coach Scott likes Cade 14, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, as the starting quarterback. I'm hoping this year, Larry, we only have one quarterback. We don't have that quarterback carousel that we had last year. But there's been about 3 or 4 guys that are, in camp. Obviously, if you get a chance to go to the spring game on Saturday, I usually go as a credential member. Fortunately, you have to have your COVID vaccine, and I haven't even gotten one shot yet, so I can't go. But I would definitely click the link, guys, if you have availability to get out there. And guys, that's funny that when I went to the spring game 2 years ago, it wasn't at Raymond James Stadium. I would love to go see a spring game at Raymond James Stadium. That would be awesome to go see that, see the Team White versus Team Green. So, I mean, get a chance to go out there. They, again, they have a pretty good season ahead of them. I mean, I have an article up here right here that probably won't make too many people happy with the result, but it's a way too early predictions for them. And guys, I just want to let you know that they have the Bulls going 1-10 this year. Just letting you know it's way too early to predict that, but they have the team only winning 1 game again this year. So we'll see how it goes.
And I'll tell you what, you know what I think of those predictions, Bradley. You and I have talked. They can take them and just throw them out the window, because how many times have you seen teams that have just, look at Arkansas last year. They didn't say they wouldn't even win a game. They ended up going to a bowl game with Felipe Franks, the quarterback who transferred over to Arkansas and had a great year, beat some incredible teams. But the one thing you mentioned, and I know they're excited about it, but Cade 14, if I don't know much right now because the coaches aren't telling me, but he would have to be what I would call the clear-on favorite to start the season next year. In the scrimmages, and yes, it's only scrimmages. I understand that, but they said he's moving the ball downfield, doing things that he was doing before his injury. And if they can find, yes, you and I talked a lot about last year, about who the heck's the quarterback on this team. I don't know if I can go through another year trying to figure out who the quarterback is. But the other thing they needed, and it's part of the reason, is that they didn't have a defined starting quarterback last year, is some consistency on offense. And, it seemed like when they played guys a couple of games in a row, they started doing well. They started doing better, started developing, and they're going to have to do that with Cade. They can't put him in for half the game, take him out. They're going to have to. They got those guys back, and they got the young kid, and I'm sorry, his name is off the back of my head. That running back who did real well as a freshman last year. He's going to be back this year. You got some good receivers. You put some strength into that defense, which showed some glimpses last year of doing well. This is a team that can do a lot better and will do a lot better than the odds makers are giving them credit for. Are they going to win 8-9 games? I didn't say that. Okay. I believe next year, we got Florida on the schedule. I know it's one of the teams. We got another ranked team. Was that?
Well, we start on the road against North Carolina State. So that's our home opener, guys. I'm hoping to be there, is on September 11th against the Florida Gators at Raymond James Stadium. That game, let's cross our fingers, guys, that there's fans in the stands, because if it was a normal without COVID, that stadium would be packed to the gills. There wouldn't be a ticket left.
That game will be packed. Don't worry. COVID, we got vaccines now. We'll be packed for that.
I'll be happy, because I'll be seeing a lot of blue and orange, and hopefully I see a lot of green and gold. I know I'm going to see a lot more blue and orange, because they'll make the trip down from Gainesville. But what I'm saying, guys, is they got some good teams on the schedule. They got North Carolina State, Florida. BYU is on the schedule.
That's who I was good. Yeah.
Let me give you guys the rest of them. Then of course, we have our conference games. We have SMU, Tulsa, Temple. Those are our, East Carolina. Those are all our in-conference games. Then we have Houston, Cincinnati, and then, of course, the dreaded UCF nights at the end of the season. But, I mean, it comes down to it, guys. Like I said, I read the article today. I don't agree with it. I know that they're not going to win 8. Like Larry said, they're not going to win 8 games. We know that. But, I mean, give them some credit. I mean, they're going to win some of those games. I think that the so-called experts have them losing. I just don't see them winning 1 game next year.
And in the conference alone, I think they could pretty much split, in our conference. And I think, it's early to tell because we haven't been out there. But just going off what I know, I wouldn't be surprised to see this team win on the low end 4 games next year, possibly 5. And, and we're going to take steps. Rome wasn't built in a day, the old saying. And, I want to see the team play more physical. I want to see things we didn't see this year. I don't want us using, and I'm not saying the epidemic was an excuse, but it was something we had out there that we could fall back on and say, well, the epidemic did this or the epidemic did that. Next year, we're playing with a clean slate. We're going to be out there. We're going to be playing. I want to see more physicality. I want to see hard hitting, swarming for the football, consistent offense. These are things that, yes, you may not have the best people athletically, ability, or, the class of recruits that you want yet, but you can still show the signs of behavior and attitude that you're looking for, whether these are the best athletes or not the best athletes. What you instill in the leadership you provide these young men are going to be how they act when they're playing in the game. And that's what I want to see. I want to see Coach Scott's persona out on the field and then doing the things that Sweeney does. I don't want to compare him to Sweeney, but I know he coached with Sweeney. But like a Clemson, they're going to come out and play hard. Or Gator, they're going to come out and give you their best shot. People have to stop thinking of USF as an easy game. You just go out and play. Look how they step up when they play UCF. Every single year, whether UCF is undefeated and we haven't won a game, we still give them an unbelievable game because we are playing like we own the state when we play them. We need to play every single game like we're playing UCF, and you will prevail half the times. And then as you mix in some of that young talent and those recruits that we know Coach Scott is going to get, the team all of a sudden is going to blend into a very, very good football team.
Yeah, Larry, I mean, let's look back last year at the UCF game. We weren't supposed to be competitive, and we took them to the brink. If it wasn't for a fumble there in the fourth quarter, I think we would have won that football game. I was there, guys. I left because I thought we were done. Of course, I get in my car, and lo and behold, they start putting points on the board. I should have stayed and watched them almost win that football game. But, yeah, what you want to see, I think what they need to do, they need to get better defensively. That's the one area I think that hurt them a year ago.
Absolutely.
They had some games, as everyone does. As they say, a squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while. But they had some good games last year defensively. They had some good games last year offensively as well. If they can get balance, they can get a good running game, get some decent wide receivers, they'll have no problem. And again, like we just spoke about, they got to stick with one man at the quarterback position. You can't rotate quarterbacks during halves, during games, whatever. Jeff Scott's got to get that taken care of, and hopefully maybe that'll happen in spring football. So by the time we roll around to August or September against NC State to start the season on the road, we'll have that quarterback in place.
You know, and it's amazing, Bradley. Well, 1 week away. A week from this Thursday is April 1st already. I mean, that's how fast things are going by right now. And you're right. And I thought, and quote me, you know, sometimes these games blend in with me, but didn't we play a pretty decent game against Cincinnati as well, who was a very good team last year?
Yeah, I think I think it was the second half that Cincinnati got up. The only games that I can remember last year that we got, Houston just annihilated us. Notre Dame annihilated us. But again, we weren't going to beat Notre Dame anyway. That was just, we just got outmatched, outplayed. The Houston game, I thought we could have played a little bit better. We just got outplayed right off the start of that football game. But for most part, most of the season last year, we played decent games, even though we lost. There were some positives, and Coach Scott, again, as we sat through last year, went through all of the press conferences and stuff. You heard him come out and say that, hey, there are positives that we're trying to continue to do. We're going to try to correct the negatives. And he just didn't have enough time to correct all the negatives. And maybe having an opportunity to have spring ball this year, he'll get the guys that he wants in the right position, get the right coaches. I know that there's been some new coaches that have come in. So we'll see how that all works out. Hopefully it works out well. I would love to see, there 11 games this year. Hey, how about, 6-6 or 5-7 would even be 5-6 would even be awesome. To go 6-5 would be great and go to a bowl game. Let's aim for that. I'm not saying they have to win the conference to be successful, but this team could be another year or two away from being a pretty damn good football team where they could win 8 or 9 games in the AAC.
And you know what else we need, Bradley? And we've talked about this last year. And, of course, last year was all messed up, obviously so, understandably so, because of the virus. But this year it looks like, and I'm just saying looks like for right now, that come football time, everything hopefully will be very close, if not back to normal now that the vaccines are out. We need to pack Raymond James every single home game. We got to stop packing Raymond James because it's the Gators playing USF. We have to pack the stadium because it's USF playing, whoever they're playing. And we have a team that is going to represent. And we need to show up as fans. And you and I talk about this. Tampa, University of South Florida is the Division I football team in Tampa. If you go into a football game, all you have to do is drive down to Dale Mabry to Raymond James Stadium and watch this team play usually it's a Saturday or a Saturday night. And I'll tell you what, guys, it's some great football. And, I can't tell you what it means to a player to know it's just a different game when you're playing in front of a full crowd. Your adrenaline's going. You're fired up. You're into it with the crowd. You want to make every play because you want everybody in those stands to be the person that loves you because you made that big play. It's just a different aura about playing in front of a full crowd. And these guys deserve it. You know, they don't ask for it, but they deserve it. Let's represent our school. We're in April right now. Bradley just named, besides the Cincinnati, I don't know if Cincinnati, but whoever we are playing this year, Houston, SMU, we're going to be playing BYU here, right? We're going to be playing the Florida Gators here. Correct. I mean, these are teams, guys, you know, not only are they good football, but wouldn't it be nice to be at a game where we could say the University of South Florida 31, the Florida Gators 27? I mean, and you were there. Support these guys. You know, come do it. It's not, you know, you're lucky to be in Tampa, because any other Division I school like University of Florida, Florida State, Miami, even UCF, you would never, ever be able to get a ticket at the price you can get a USF ticket for. It's incredible what you get for your money when you go watch a USF football game. And start now, folks. You know, you're what, 4 or 5 months away, probably. What are we, April? So, yeah, about 5 months roughly. I don't know the date. What is the date of the first game, Bradley?
Against NC State. Let me see real quick. Let me pull up the schedule here.
It's got to be beginning of September.
Yeah, because September 11th is the first home game.
Right.
So let's see what the schedule is.
Which means it's got to be about the 4th, I want to say.
I think, Larry, it starts on a Friday. I'm going to say September 3rd.
Okay, but in that area. So we're 5 months away from kickoff in football.
Actually, you know what, Larry? It's September 2nd, the Thursday night game.
Oh, well, look at that. We just talked. Okay. So, look, that's even better. You get to watch the game. That game is an away game, obviously. So you'll be able to watch it, I'm sure, on ESPN or one of those affiliates. But, folks, let's get involved. Let's stick with this team. You know, we're going to try to continue, Bradley and I, to get more guests on the show. One of the guests that I'd like to get on in the near future is Coach Scott. You know, during the time of year when it's not busy, where he's so tied down with, you know, everything going on during the football season. And we're going to continue to try to get other folks as well. So, you know, if there's anybody, you know, instant message us that you'd like to see us get on the show in the future, please go ahead. Let us know. We will be more than happy to do our best to get them on. Well, Bradley, you know, I'll tell you what, when we have stuff to talk about, even when we don't have guests on, time goes pretty fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, Larry, and real quick before we get off here, I was going to tell you guys, go out and see football. Take from someone who's at a USF game last year as a press member with no people in the stands. I just want to tell you that. It was so eerie. Not one fan was allowed in the game. So pack USF, pack Raymond James Stadium. For God's sakes, wear your green and gold. Get out there, and even when they're not playing the Floridas or the BYUs, Temple and Tulsa are going to be here. Go wear your green and gold. Get out there and help these young men. Because like he said, they get jacked up when they're there. And when Raymond James Stadium is lit and just blowing up.
And, you know, I want to let everybody know that there are other sports going on currently at USF. And we just didn't have time with the women playing today, which definitely took the forefront, which deservingly so. But, you know, we had the baseball team that had a big win. We have 2 soccer teams that are doing incredible, the volleyball team, the golf team. So we don't want you to think that we left you out. There's just so much to get to sometime, and we know your season is continuing after today. So, you know, don't think that we're leaving you out. It's hard to get to every single sport, and we try to get to as many of the sports as all of you fans like to. If once again there's another sport that we're not mentioning, let us know. We'll be more than happy to abide and do anything you like when it comes to covering a sport at USF. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, congratulations to the women's team on a very, very, very successful year, despite losing in the second round of the NCAA tournament to an unbelievable NC State team. I would not be surprised if that team gets to the Final Four, but we'll see what happens there. But, you know, It's been an incredible ride, and they're going to be a team that is really fun. We've been just talking about football, but they're going to be a fun team to watch as well next year. And it just seems like as we listen and as we see all these awards that different sports are getting, USF is putting themselves on the map athletically. And like Bradley said, the only thing left for us to do, we are beginning to perform like a top Division I team. Now our fans need to act like top Division I fans. And you're out there. We know you're out there. Come on out. Stop being shy. You found out what sitting at a house for over a year has been like. Get out on a Thursday or a Saturday, whenever the game is, and represent your team. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Bradley Lewis Walker and myself, Larry Frank, I want to thank you so very, very much for tuning in to Bullseye. We'll see you again next Tuesday on another episode of Bullseye.